This is Good Martini Michael here to show you how to build the best raised beds you've ever seen. We built these raised beds in an old greenhouse, and as you can see, we have quite a few. I've started doing this 5 years ago, and so the ones on your left, my left, are 18 feet long, 4 feet wide, built 5 years ago. Further on down, ones we built 4 years ago, across the back 3 years ago, here to my right, ones we built last year, and then this year, using a slightly different wood, we built some shorter ones. These are 12 footers, a little easier to manage, also 4 foot wide, and these are made out of western red cedar. So the thing that I like about these raised beds, most critically, is their height, 18 to 20 inches, easy to sit down on, easy to work with. The hardware is hidden with the exception of one bolt, which provides for tension across the middle. Everything else is mostly built from the inside, which I'll show you in a bit. The water supplied by PVC comes up to the bed, turn-off valves, preferably out of the sunshine, as they do break after a while, feeding this bed as well as then around the back to see the other. So as the water comes in, I like Netafim, an Israeli product that I've had for 30 years, and it continues to perform. It just doesn't fail. And so for these beds, you'll see I've got 3 lines within what is effectively 44 inches of actual soil. And you'll also notice that these are kind of high for the amount of soil that's being used. I don't have any kind of false bed in the bottom. This is all soil. So you're spending a bit more money on the soil, but as a result, you have something that's comfortable to work with. So when you think about doing this, the thing you have to do first is, of course, prepare the soil. And over here you can see I've leveled the last section that I need to make into 2 beds. And to do this, if you can, I would rototill. So rototill it, because then as you're working with the soil, you can flatten it and level it much more readily. To do that, what I've typically done is used a stick, as you see right here, with a level attached to it. So I can stick my hands in there and pull it along and see that I'm level as I go. And obviously, finally, you're going to be putting on landscape fabric, which you see here. I like the heavier grade stuff. You'll see that on the right-hand side. It looks a little better than the stuff on the left, which hasn't worked quite so well. So that's the basics to think about. That's the final product. Each of these boxes, the 12 footers in particular, are not cheap. They're going to cost you about $800 all in for the wood, for the hardware, for the soil in the Northwest. So I'm going to walk over here and show you a little bit more about what else you need. So in terms of your lumber, there's your lumber list in the top right. In terms of your cut list, further down, this is what I'm going to cut, with the exception of what we call the top boards. Those are not the final dimensions. Those you have to measure on site. So the materials, in addition to the wood, you're going to need that cable that I described, turnbuckles, just 1 per box, 4 of these thimbles, top screws, galvanized 4.5 inch lag bolts with galvanized washers, landscape staples, the landscape fabric I showed you earlier. The tools are fairly simple. You're going to need some kind of a chop saw. It's best if you have some expandable clamps, 24 inches, drill motor, impact driver, drill bits, and what else you see here. So that's the basics. In terms of what you're doing, you're creating 2 long walls. So here in plan view, you're going to see what this looks like without the top on. So this is using 6-foot lumber largely to make the 12 feet long width, or long boards. In terms of side view, you're going to see here that I've got the 2x8s across the bottom and 2 2x6s on the top one. And then in the middle, I split it up to create rigidity along the middle by doing a 3-foot section, a 6-foot section, and then a 3-foot section. So what holds it together then, of course, are the 4x4s behind, which you saw earlier, and those are going to be bolted in as shown here. The bigger black hole there represents that screw, or the eye bolt that holds the wire that goes across the middle. Okay, so how are you going to build it? So for me, at my age, I can't build a full 12-foot section and carry it. So I build it in 2 sections. So these 2 sections then kind of look like this right here. And then once you've built those 2, and I'll show them in a second, then what you do is you just slot in 3 boards at the end. If I was to redo this, I would not do a 2x8 and 2 2x6s. I'd do simply 3 2x6s. So the reason is the lumber that you're using is a utility grade. Alaskan yellow cedar is what I prefer, but the Western red cedar works really well. You can use pressure treated if you want. Regardless of the wood you use, you're probably going to have to cover it either with landscape fabric on the inside or 6 mil plastic. So I've used the plastic, but I think either would probably work fine. Okay, so let's look at these 2 sections. So these are the 4 completed bigger sections. So in other words, from this side, I've got those 4x4s behind. I've bolted in the boards, as you can see, the 2x8 versus the 2 2x6s. And then here, I've got that piece that sticks out. When I take them into the greenhouse to put them together, I've already built the other side, which is of course going to just slot right in. So I put it here so you can see how it sort of slots together. And of course you've left half of the 4x4 so it'll come together. Okay, that's the 2 sections of each of the long walls. And in a few minutes, I'll show you how to make each of those sections.